The Sun is considered one of the most important planets in astrology. It actually represents our very soul. So what happens when the soul comes in contact with boundaries and restrictions? What happens when the Sun is conjunct Saturn? In Western astrology, the Sun is the most important planet in one's birth chart. And even in Vedic astrology, the Sun is called the significator of the soul, signifying how extremely important it is to who we are. It is literally who we are as individuals because it shows what we are about, how we wish to be seen in the world. Not just in terms of, oh, I want to achieve something, but in terms of, that is literally who I am. The Sun also represents the father and every other authority figure, because the Sun is the king of the planets, the ruler, the one that decides what is going to happen. The Sun also represents creativity, because it is the light that shines forth from ourselves. It is what we show the world, both in art and in our very existence, in how we interact, in what we do. But that is quite an antithesis to what Saturn is. You see, Saturn is reality, it is restrictions, it is limitations, it is the boundaries and the obstacles in our way. It is time, because time limits what we are able to achieve, and it also limits our lifespan. Saturn literally represents a form of prison for the soul, because it is limited in the material world. It cannot fly. It cannot imagine and suddenly something appears. There are rules and regulations. And do you know of any authority figure that likes to be limited? Do you know of any king that likes his throne challenged? Well, neither do I. You see, this is quite a problematic combination. Sure, both the Sun and Saturn are all about rules, but the Sun is the one who likes to make the rules, while Saturn says no, everyone should follow the same set of rules. So they are in constant conflict. And that conflict is far from trivial. In fact, it is very innate. They are considered arch enemies when it comes to astrology, the antithesis of each other. In fact, when it comes to Hindu mythology, Saturn is the offspring of the Sun, but one who is shunned, one who is cast away. Literally, the unwanted child. Well, that's quite an issue between those two, isn't it? But in terms of how this affects an individual with such a combination, well, think about it this way. What if your creative genius is suddenly limited? What if you are afraid to express who you are? For example, if you are a victim of some sort of oppression, or you live in a dictatorship, well, then obviously you are not very free. This conjunction can also represent someone who is forced to hide their identity, because again, the sun is what we show the world, is who we are. Yet Saturn is restriction, boundaries. It can represent a person who is very limited in his ability to achieve something because of his relationship to the authorities, which means, for example, a political dissident or someone who is opposed the current governmental structure in some way, or someone who is persecuted by that structure. Things aren't better when we look at the medical application of such a combination, because it means that the digestion is usually quite slow. In fact, indigestion is a common occurrence. Usually it also means that there are some restrictions on the types of food one can eat, for example, due to allergies or a very strict diet, or even some religious observance that limits one's capacity to have sustenance. Usually it also implies that there are some restrictions in terms of the nutritional values, such as a lack of vitamins or minerals, which can cause severe problems. It can also, quite unfortunately, mean that a person has a very limited amount of energy, because the sun is the major energy source and Saturn is again restrictions, so it can show someone who is constantly ill or fatigued, tired. But there is a very important upside to such a conjunction. You see, when one is faced with extreme limitations and restrictions, one becomes very resilient. One becomes a survivor. People with such a conjunction can usually overcome difficulties that others cannot even imagine. This is quite useful if a person with such a conjunction is living in the aforementioned dictatorship or is somehow persecuted by the authorities. Another interesting fact is that a person with such a conjunction usually has far more resilient bones than a normal person, because you have the sun, which represents mineral uptake, or more specifically calcium uptake, with Saturn, which represents firmness and structure. So broken bones are usually not a problem for such a person. In fact, he would be far tougher physically than most people around him. But overall, this conjunction has a very specific lesson to teach its owner. The lesson is that one should learn how to express themselves even in the most restrictive of environments. In fact, one needs to learn how to shine in the darkness. Because you see, Saturn delays, it doesn't deny. And the main authority of Saturn is to impose patience to make us wait for the results. But the results do come. They are simply coming later than usual. So, when the person with such a conjunction matures, they are able to overcome their circumstances. They are also able to flourish where others can only dream. In fact, these people can literally go from rags to riches in the span of a lifetime. Or let's say someone who spends most of their lives in prison, yet when they come out, they are able to become a celebrity or even a prominent public leader. So one can consider this conjunction an early sign of despair, yet a later sign of success. And if one is able to withstand the limitations imposed earlier in life, then later on they will shine, and shine brighter than most. I hope you found this video useful. Please like and subscribe, and if you wish to learn more about medical astrology and astrology in general, please check out my website. You will find the link below. Thank you.